government and other stakeholders continue their search for solutions to South Africa's energy crisis. The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has announced plans to streamline environmental assessment processes for renewable energy projects. To give us more detail on this, we're joined by Minister Barbara Creecy, who heads the department. Thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. So in a nutshell, I guess this is to cut red tape. Perhaps if you can put us into the picture in terms of what the existing challenges are and how you plan to speed up the processes.
Good afternoon and greetings to all your listeners. Well, I think that there have been complaints with regard to the speed at which it's possible to get energy projects online. We've been working on this process for quite some time now. Over the last 3 years, we've declared the renewable energy zones, and this has decreased the time it takes to get an environmental assessment from 300 to 147 days. There's been a similar process with regard to gas corridors, where there is an improvement in terms of gas pipelines, and again it's reducing the time for environmental authorization from 300 to 147 days. We've recently we will, in fact, at the end of the month, be gazetting a process whereby there is exemption for various installations related to transmission. And again, this is so that Eskom is able to expand their transition grid. And now we are giving, we are going to exclude solar PV. It's not all solar projects, but it's solar PV projects from the need to get a full environmental authorization. And this will further cut down the time from 147 days in the corridors to approximately 60 days.
Oh, that's very encouraging. In terms of simplifying the environmental authorization process, what can you tell us about that?
Well, what will happen is that we are also gazetting a tool which identifies areas of high, medium, and low environmental sensitivity. And so developers can use this tool to identify areas of low and medium sensitivity where the full environmental impact assessment will not be required. So it's not for areas of high environmental sensitivity. But of course, what we know is even in areas of low and medium environmental sensitivity, you might have a wetland or a protected tree. So what will be required is a walkthrough of the area by a registered environmental assessment practitioner to confirm that the area is indeed of low or medium sensitivity. So there are still processes and registrations that have to be followed, but this is part, as I say, of the overall work that we're doing to try and streamline our application processes.
And you are comfortable with this tool that you will be using? That is a question because in terms of, when you can be excluded from requiring environmental authorization, what would have needed to happen?
Well, as I say, we are gazetting the tool, and we are also gazetting this proposal for public comment. And obviously, there would be concerns. Yesterday, I met with a range of organizations, and there would be concerns expressed that it will be very important, these issues I've raised. If in an area of generally low environmental sensitivity, there are important environmental features that exist, for example, a wetland or a protected tree, what will happen to those? And that's why there has to be this walkthrough of the site by a qualified environmental assessment practitioner, so that one can then say, well, you could develop on this part of the site, but you can't touch the wetland or the protected tree or that kind of issue. So I think that we are trying to to facilitate development, but at the same time to protect aspects of our natural environment that would be important because they provide ecosystem services or biodiversity through this walkthrough process that would be looking at the specifics, site specifics.
Right. We understand there's work currently being done to simplify the process of wind projects.
Well, that one is much more complicated because you would be aware that wind turbines pose a threat to birds and bats. And at this point in time, there is still a requirement for a year-long study. One of the key issues when you're dealing with any species is that obviously the sensitivity may not be all year round. It might just be in the breeding season. And that's why this year-long study is required. We're looking at it. I don't want to make any promises at this stage, but we do understand that wind is an important power source, and so we are looking at it, but it's much more complicated than the issue of solar, which has relatively little impact on birds and bats and other forms of wildlife.
Fair enough. August is just a week to go. So when in August will it be gazetted? The first week or towards the end of the month?
Well, we hope that we will have it gazetted by the middle of the month. I met with all the MECs of provinces yesterday. What we always want to make sure is there must be synergy between provincial and national government. So we have given provinces 10 days to comment, and so I would imagine that they will have finished within the next 10 days, so we should be able to publish by the middle of August.
Thank you very much for availing yourself. Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Minister Barbara Creecy.